Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tiger Global Case Competition TGCC 2021 Future of Mobility. TGCC is the largest global virtual case competition for high school students. It's brought to you by principal partner Tiger Global Management, official sponsor PwC, and global partner M&G Investments, as well as powered by Crimson Education. TGCC is an opportunity for all students 13 to 18 years old willing to step into the shoes of a CEO or consultant to solve a real business challenge. It's 100% virtual, so you can compete from anywhere in the world, and you also get to attend the best in class workshops to build your skills in analyzing a business case and presenting your solutions to a panel of live judges. Competitors work in teams of 2 to 4 to crack the case, and currently we have nearly 2,400 registrations from nearly 60 countries, almost 770 teams in total. Registrations for TGCC 2021 are still open and will close next Tuesday, August 3rd at 11:59 p.m. New York time. My name is Ibrahim, and I am a high school student here from Dubai. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, consulting, and public speaking, and I will be your webinar host for today. This Meet the Judges session is an amazing opportunity for the TGCC competitors or potential competitors to get to know whom they will be presenting to if they're fortunate enough to make it to the live regional EMEA qualifying round. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping notes. This session will be around 30 minutes, and we will not be using the chat function at all. If you have any questions, instead, please use the Q&A box that is right next to the chat function, and our team will get to answering your questions. And we will also have a live Q&A at the end, so if you have any questions for our judges here, then please drop them in there, and we will cover them in the live Q&A. And also, before you put in any question, please have a good look at the current questions. And if your question is already listed there, please just upvote the current question so we can cover only the one question. While I introduce our panelists today, we are going to drop a few polls to learn a little about who's joining us on the call today. And please answer these for us so we know who is with us. So first, let me introduce Simon Koo, who's coming in from the UK, where it is about 4 p.m. Simon is a founder at Team Credit and Finance, which provides insured funding solutions to commercial real estate and renewable projects, planning application market. She has 16 years of experience in banking previously across trading, structuring, ETF sales at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan, and worked as an operator in charge of commercialization at a fintech unicorn, Oak North. She's a mentor at Accenture Fintech Innovation Lab uh, and has angel invested in and advised many fintech and impact startups over the last 3 years. She tutors and lectures at the MBA programs at Oxford and Cambridge and is an honorary practice fellow at Imperial College Business School. Next, it's my pleasure to welcome Mohammed, who is tuning in from Dubai, where I'm from, where it is currently 7 p.m. Good evening, Mohammed.
Good evening, Imtiaz.
Mohammed is a senior banker at Agricultural Bank of China in the UAE, covering sovereign funds, governments, and large financial institutions. He's developed and structured the finance franchise in the MENA region, and his expertise lies in project finance and mergers and acquisitions. Previously, Mohammed was a part of the talent program at Credit Agricole, where he covered large corporate and government-related entities, especially in structured trade and export finance field. He's been nominated this year as the Employee of the Year by his bank out of 500,000 employees. Mohammed is graduated from the Paris-based ESCE Business School. And our third incredible judge that I have the pleasure of introducing today is Janine Manning. She is joining us today from the UK. Welcome and good evening.
Good afternoon.
She is a chartered accountant, MBA graduate, and active angel investor who helps startup founders on their journey. From New Zealand, but currently based in London, she is a company director at Crimson Education, Rebecca Page, Stitch and Beanie, Despite having over 30 years of experience, she's a believer in lifelong learning and recently graduated from the University of Cambridge Master of Studies in Social Innovation. All right. As you can see, we have a stellar panel of judges for this region who are excited to share insights with you into their incredible careers and what makes them tick. Don't forget, if you have any questions for TGCC or our panel today, drop them in the Q&A and we'll have time for getting to them at the end of the session. Cool. All right, my first question goes to Janine. What is the most important skill or lesson do you hope that students will learn during TGCC 2021 this year?
Thanks. That's a great question. I think the most important thing is what you learn about collaborating and working with a team. So I say sort of the sum of the whole, 1 + 1 + 1 equals more than 3. So I was a judge last year, so I have that advantage of sort of knowing how teams gel together and how they work together. And the teams that sort of clearly divide up the case and present the case that they've worked on themselves, they generally end up with a better overall outcome than teams that sort of randomly jump in here and there and don't sort of structure that case well. So I'd say it's a great opportunity to collaborate with your team members and to come up with an overall answer that you all agree with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, being an entrepreneur myself, I think one of the most important aspects of entrepreneurship and anything in general is teamwork and collaboration with your teammates. That's a lot. Thank you for sharing your insight. And now I will turn that question to Mohammed. What do you think is the most important skill or lesson that you hope students will learn?
Well, thank you, Imtiaz. I believe teamwork is really essential. Throughout the life of these students, they will naturally meet people sometimes for the first time, and they will have to work together and to deliver together. So it's extremely important to really identify resources, strength, and allocate them efficiently. So I strongly believe teamwork will be a key lesson throughout the game. Another thing I would like to add is that they should not be shy. They have to identify and consider all the options. Many times, all the options are not on the table. So they have to consider them all, put them on the table, discuss them, and then select them. So don't be shy and put all the options you may consider on the table and discuss them with your team members.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing. Hopefully that will help our competitors focus on what really matters in TGCC. I'd like to move out of TGCC for a few seconds. Simone, this next question is for you. What values are you committed to and why?
Thanks, Abraham. I have a number of these, and I can go on for a long time on what are the most important values. But in general, I think have a bias for action. You won't get anywhere if you're planning too much or assessing too many risks. I think inaction's your biggest enemy, and you won't really get anywhere standing still and or being a bystander or watcher. And then the second thing I think I'll probably emphasize is solve the biggest problem that you can find with the most audacious goals. No one ever changed history by being reasonable or being risk assessing. I mean, yes, have a optimal path, but that doesn't mean you stand still and not act. And I think the third point is kind of resonant to what Janine and Mohammed have shared earlier. I think you're probably as good as the best of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So this is a bit of cliche, but this, it's self-explanatory. But once you're out of your bubble or, school or groups that you're part of, in life, I think this becomes super important, that you surround yourself with the people that you can admire and get an inspiration from.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That was really inspirational. Thank you for sharing. Let's get a bit more personal now. What do you think are some of the biggest difficulties that you faced in your career, and how did you overcome them? This question is for Simon as well.
Yeah, so I would say that when I was younger, I was never really good at failing at something or being wrong. I think, I used to take it very personally. I still do to a degree, but, really beat myself up. So, and this is very typical of someone who did well in school or, used to getting good grades or getting, praises kind of all around. I mean, I did go to small schools, so it's pretty normal for me to be afraid of failing. And you tend to then look at the midpoint failures as this non-recoverable traps, and it could be very, very dangerous and detrimental to your career development. And you will most certainly have an awful decade in your 20s if you don't get this out of your head, which is what I did in my 20s. And 20s are a hard decade anyway, because you're out, and even though you might have done really well in universities or in high school, you're kind of at the bottom of the, you've got not much to lose, and you kind of feel like a failure 98% of the time. So don't be too hard on yourself, especially when you're starting out. I think you have a lot to add. In general, a lot of people who've been there for a long time generally, have a pretty set ways of doing things, and your fresh perspective can actually be a real, changing element for them. And I think I overcame them when I had children and saw how they're resilient, and through, trying new things, like things that I was really bad at, like cooking or running or coding or, so I think overall it's really easy to think that, the world has these huge expectations of you that you cannot fail, but in reality, you have so much to offer. So keep your kind of growth mindset active.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think especially like people like me that are in school, think everything's like black and white, just failure or no failure. And really out there in the real world, it's pretty much just learning and growing. There's no such thing as failure and success. So yeah, thank you for your insights. Now let's talk about what makes you tick, Jenna. And this question is for you. What do you like most about your career?
I'm obviously the oldest judge here, so I've probably got the most to talk about in this regard, but I'll try to keep it brief. I started out as an accountant, which was a fairly specialist skill. And in that regard, I say that, even though you might start off even specializing in subjects at high school, it always sort of helps to have a broader mindset than that. So sort of think beyond what you might do as a career. So don't sort of set it up too early that you're going to be a doctor or a computer scientist or whatever it might be. Keep that open. So really what I've liked about my career is that I can use my accounting as a base to sort of move into that area of working with, seed stage startups. So right from the beginning, and that's my sort of comfort zone and my happy place where it's all of the sort of, Jamie says it's down in the weeds. I think it's supposed to be grassroots, but it pretty much is down in the weeds. At Crimson one year, we opened in one new country every month, and that was really challenging. But I love that kind of difficult sort of puzzle, putting teams together and coming out the other end, with a positive result. So I think, what I like now is that I can actually add value because I've had those years of experience in a finance and accounting role to be able to sort of make sure that side of the business in a startup runs well.
That's amazing. That's very empowering. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to turn that same question to you, Mohammed. What do you like the most about your career?
Well, I started in Paris first because I went to a business school in Paris. So I started with a French investment bank first in Paris. So I was covering government-related entities and financial institutions in France and Europe. And then I went to Dubai, where I cover sovereign fund, government, etc. So what I like about the business we are in is that you have to cover a wide spectrum of sectors. So today you can work with a financial institution, understand the liquidity issues, the solvency issues, the quality of the balance sheet, trying to understand the strategy. And tomorrow you can work for the government, advising the government, financing the government, putting together structuring in order to finance a very important assets for the government, like a power plant, which will help people to have electricity, or a water plant. So I would say that the diversity of the sectors and different geographies and different regulations that you have to work with different constraints. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's very similar to management consulting as well. I had a few months internship at a management consulting firm, and it was really amazing how, you really get to explore so many different fields in such a short period of time, and so many different aspects of a business, and as well like government entities as mentioned. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right.
Most welcome.
No problem. All right, let's talk about access and resources for young and ambitious minds like mine. Simon, what are good resources for young people who want to pursue a career in your industry?
Thanks, Abraham. It's become a lot harder to define my industry, but let's start with the financial services, which is kind of where I've started. And then we can move on to fintech and kind of the broader tech startup and the VC ecosystem, if you will. And I'd love to actually hear your opinion as to whether you know any of these and or, if you've come across them, because of course, you will be the user. I mean, I'm usually the follower of the edtech as an investor. I think for financial services, you probably want to read up on, kind of traditional medias like the Financial Times or Wall Street Journal. By the way, have your notepads ready because I'm going to throw a lot of names at you. And there are some classic books like, Liar's Poker, etc. And there's a whole lot of these things now available. There's been even more on the back of the global financial crisis in 2008. You can also take some trading classes now at places like Amplify Trading. It's a UK-based firm here who work with banks to source some young talent. And they also do independent, certificates for people who perform well. For fintechs and startups in general, I heard that Jumpstart is a great place to get exposure for exciting startups. Again, they might be UK based at the moment, but I'm sure there are similar places in other regions, as well as following the right people on Twitter. I mean, I never realized actually how powerful Twitter is and how much business actually gets done there. And then for anyone who's interested in getting into venture capital, I think there are Teen VC, which is an initiative that's been run by Augmentum, which is a fintech VC that I work pretty closely with, and Future VC. And this is one where a lot of the VCs that are interested in diverse talent have set up to encourage more people from non-traditional backgrounds to apply. And it helps you land work experiences there. I think tech in general is kind of over flooded with resources. They're schools or MOOCs, if you will, the massively open outsourced learning as courses are being born every day, but there are, just off the top of my head, Udemy, Udacity, Coursera, edX, anything X really. So they're Harvard X, Stanford X, and Eton X, just to name a few. And these are all freely available courses. You only have to pay for them if you want a certificate that you can use on your LinkedIn. So these are some great free resources, as well as, companies now have academy sites publicly available. So Google has Google Ed, Education, HubSpot, and Salesforce have Trailblazer, where you can, collect coins and then in the end win some hoodies. So, tech and VCs, again, sign up to Twitter and follow some great people here. It's been, it's always buzzing, including the likes of, some of the tech billionaires like the Elon Musk and what have you. But also I'm a big believer, you need to be a good storyteller and a writer. So this is a bit of a traditional angle, but it's become so much more important than ever to be persuasive and to be good at negotiating. So I think these are the key skills that you should look to develop in a more traditional sense in your teenage years.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Many of them I have encountered myself. Another one on VC, there's a community called Gen Z VCs, and I've been an active part of that for a while now. But yeah, thank you for your insight on that. All right. Now, for a question for Mohammed and Janine, let's start with you, Mohammed. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone that is just starting out in their career?
Well, here it's very interesting because I strongly believe that there is no distinction between the part of your life when you study and then when you start working. For me, you are a student all the time, even when you start working. So this is extremely important because you have to be curious all the time. You should not limit yourself to your field. You should widen your field, and you should always challenge what you know and the way you execute what you know. So I would highly recommend people to be completely open-minded, to seek knowledge, and to also surround themselves with people who are not only in their field. Surround you people with tech background, legal background, compliance background, historical background, and the aggregation of all of this will make you, I think, a better decision-making person. Extremely important for me. So that's what would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know there are many people trying to get one specific skill, and that's also very important, but it's also important to be a sort of a generalist and have little knowledge, or at least some basic knowledge in many different fields. So like in all like phases of your life, it can help you definitely. And what about you, Janine?
Probably similar. I've written down a few notes here. I put be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. So lots of students here are very bright students that have very positive futures, but it does mean sometimes that perhaps they can be a little arrogant with that. So when you're starting out anywhere, or even when you're my age, I hope that I learn as much from the young people as I work with as they do from me. Even though I've had a lot more years of experience than them. So really, it's just about committing to becoming a lifelong learner from an early age.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. Same point as Mohammed, um, I think I heard that the most knowledgeable person I know is the one who knows what he doesn't know. So it's definitely important to know that you're not the one who knows everything, and it's definitely important to keep learning from everyone. All right, we have about 8 to 10 minutes left, and for that, we will go to the live Q&A to answer our competitors' questions. This is a very upvoted one. So we've got, given the sheer number of participants, which is about 2,400, it is highly unlikely that your arguments and ideas are going to be completely original. How can you still make your presentation unique, notwithstanding the fact that there are many people that will share your points?
I'll go first on that one. I think there will be, common areas where everybody sort of comes up with the same idea. We did find last year that some ideas were completely out of the box, and that's sort of what's exciting when you're a judge, is sort of seeing that people have used the information that they've got, they've analysed the data, but they've come out with something that is a little bit different than everyone else. So if you don't think that you have any ideas that are completely out of the box like that, I think it's about developing that story that is consistent throughout the team members. So, you start it at the beginning of the journey and you explain what's going on. So it's sort of signposting, show me what you're going to say, then say it, and then show me what you've said. So it's about that sort of consistency of argument. It can also be a combination of ideas. So you might have 5 key findings, but you might progress with just 1 or 2 of them to that further stage in your case. So it's just about the team members, whether it be 2, 3, or 4, analysing that case from the beginning. I'd say maybe read it all separately before you discuss it, so that you're coming with ideas that you can then sort of narrow down and see whether there's something that has appeal.
Yep, definitely agree with that. And as soon as I saw the question, I remembered Simon's point about storytelling and negotiation. I think those skills would, even if you have similar ideas than others, if you present it in a way that the others don't, then you will definitely be the one who stands out. Anyone else who has an input on this question?
Just one word. I think very importantly here, you have to be yourself. Do not try to pretend to be another one. Be yourself. It's easy, and you are singular. So you are different from other people. So be yourself is the easiest way, and this way you will be, I think, better in delivering your presentation.
Yep, that's definitely good. Our next question is, how important would you say social media is in the business world? Simone, would you like
Well,
to
I'm
talk?
happy to start. I said it already, but Twitter is a very powerful tool, and I see businesses and people getting jobs there all the time. So I would say that social media is something that businesses cannot ignore, because it does have an impact, whether it's in the market or in the sentiment, or where have you. Even when I was in banking, where it's a lot less encouraged because there's higher risk that these people on social media might say something that doesn't represent the firm correctly because it's their personal view, etc. So there's all sorts of restrictions. But even they have to pay attention to what is happening, let's say on Twitter or in other places, because that's where a lot of the debates happen. So, with the likes of Glassdoor, where, employees, or I guess ex-employees, can comment on what it's been like, being at the companies that they've been part of. It's a very important aspect that the employers and the businesses cannot ignore. But of course, it's not I would say, still the biggest of the deals and things get done off social media, and traditional media has its place, but its share is getting less and less dominant, I would say.
Yep, definitely agree with that. I think, you know, a concept in economics like information asymmetry, I think that's really moving away with the existence of social media and pretty much being able to find information on anything. Mohammed, I think you had something to say.
no, no, just to complete, yes, the reputational risk is essential, and all the companies today are adjusting the marketing strategies. Like, for instance, in finance, a small piece of information can have a great impact on the access to liquidity in the market. So it's really essential, and all the international banks and actors in finance are paying a great attention to what's happening in social media.
Yep, definitely agree with that. Our next question is, what would you consider more important, creativity or how practical the solution is?
I can start with that one if you like. I think it's probably important to balance creativity with some practical backup. There's no use coming up with some kind of solution that you have no sort of explanation of how you might execute on it. So I think it's always creativity is great, and the whole process is creative. But at the end of the day, it's about having actionable. Simone talked about action, being action-based before. So it's about having actual points that can be actionable.
Anyone else?
Yeah, that's very true, actually. Most companies today are operating in very challenging environments, or a lot of constraints in terms of regulations, in terms of fiscal aspect, in terms of rules, in terms of different interests from different stakeholders. So it's essential to balance the creativity and the practical aspect in order to execute, because at the end of the day, it's all about executing a mandate and delivering a performance. So yes, balancing is essential. So I would say both are important.
Definitely agree. Our next question is, what are the key qualities should an entrepreneur have to succeed? I think this would be best suited for Jana and then Simon.
I guess I can go first. It's an interesting one because I was drawn to kind of the startup world for this reason. I think the being able to distinguish the successful entrepreneurs of the future is a very interesting exercise and a journey. I think, and a lot of people say different things, but I think an entrepreneur should be bold. I think they can't make anything happen unless they're bold. Because if you think about all the problems they've been tried before, someone else has done it before. There will always be someone who tells you not to do it because it's a crowded place, or there's, there's so many businesses being born every day. So unless if they actually are a bit different, unless they're a bit, I don't know, naive and maybe a bit arrogant and maybe a bit, I don't know, delusional, like they'll never make it far. Because I mean, they'll all say that even the successful entrepreneurs, if they'd known like what they know now, they wouldn't be doing what they started doing 10 years ago. So I think kind of the not knowing, but also kind of having that hope and being a bit audacious is a really key quality for any entrepreneurs to be successful. Which is why, I mean, I think the average age of the most successful entrepreneurs, or the group of unicorns, is something like 40. So it's by no means super young. I think media tends to actually glorify the young entrepreneurs who make it young, who make it and kind of are wildly successful. But couple that naivety, couple that I can do this no matter what anyone else says, plus with some of the experiences that are relevant for that industry, actually makes the entrepreneurs successful. What do you think, Janine?
What I like about young entrepreneurs like Jamie, and I started with Jamie from Crimson when he was still a teenager and he was at school like you guys are now, and he clearly articulated what his vision was surrounding education to change the world. And I'd say that 7 years on, Jamie's vision has not wavered. How we've got there has definitely pivoted and moved around during that time, but that vision has always been very clear. So it's a little bit like balancing the creativity with the practical when you're looking at the case. I say you have to balance the vision with the ability to have a great work ethic and to know how to work hard.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you guys' points. And we've got a few questions about investment banking, but we're running short on time right now. But we do have a webinar, I think this Saturday, on investment banking and consulting. So all of you that are interested in that, definitely sign up for that. We'll just go with one last question for Simone. This is a very specific question. Could you please recommend me some useful Twitter pages?
This is a good one. I tend to follow a lot of different people, but I follow Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, Paul Graham is the founder of Y Combinator. There's a huge number of A16Z. These are Andreessen Horowitz VC partners that I follow, as well as some kind of, I don't know. There's groups also that you can follow, and you got to be a bit careful because there's some are like bot generated. Of course, there's the Reddit crowd for meme stocks like the Wall Street, what do you call those things?
Wall Street Bets.
That's it, Wall Street Bets. So huge number, and those are, just so you're aware, because I think that the most additive Twitter pages are the ones that actually you don't agree with, because so if you happen to have a conservative leaning, follow liberals. Or if you have liberal leanings, and follow some conservatives, because that balances your views and that gives you views that you're not usually used to. Because for the most part, you will be talking to your friends who share similar views and are in kind of similar circles. So yeah, I mean, I would start there. There's huge number of others that I'm probably missing, and I follow about 1,000 different pages. So yeah, the best way to do it is actually, if you like a company and if you admire a founder, find out like who invested in them, whether it's an angel or a VC, and they will probably have a Twitter page. So
That's very cool. All right, that's all the questions we have time for today. Thank you for joining us and learning about all these incredible judges that we have for the MENA region. And huge thank you to our judges that took the time for today in sharing their expertise and insights with the audience today. It was definitely very insightful, and I'm sure very many students were inspired today. The recording of this webinar will be sent to all registrants on Friday and all TGCC competitors in the weekly Monday email. Make sure you are following TGCC on the Instagram handle and are up to date with our announcement. The Instagram handle is @GlobalCaseComp. And for what's next, this weekend, we are hosting another global webinar, as I mentioned. If you're curious in or are interested in consulting or investing, this expert panel this Saturday is definitely the one that you want to explore. And just like today, they will be able to share personal insights in their careers. You can register on the TGCC events page on the official TGCC website, which is casecomp.org. And let's not forget the most important thing. If you have not registered for the Tiger Global Case Competition, definitely scan the QR code right now that is on your screen, and you will be forwarded to the link where you can register with your friends or teammates. TGCC obviously is the largest global case competition for high school students. So yeah, do not forget to register. The registrations close on August 3rd, 2021, which is next Tuesday, and there will be no exceptions. You can either go to the website or scan the code that is in front of you. All right, that is it for today. Thank you so much to all of our judges and all of our team today for hosting this webinar. We would definitely like to thank our sponsors and partners for making this possible, which is principal partner Tiger Global Management, official sponsor PwC, global partner MNG Investments, and obviously Crimson Education that is powering this whole thing. And see you at TGCC 2021 and this Saturday's webinar. Thank you for joining. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.